Welcome to MojoTalks. This is WatchClub, the show where we talk about the biggest shows on TV week after week. Now we're talking about Legion. I'm joined by my faithful co-host, Chris.
That's me.
And today we're talking about Season 2, Episode 5.
Chapter 13.
This one is directed by none other than Tim Mylance and written by, once again, Noah Hawley, Nathaniel Hawthorne, the team that has delivered this season so far. And it was a doozy this week.
Man, I'm lost. I'm honestly like almost frustrated. It's so enjoyable and beautiful to watch,
Yes.
but when I start thinking about it, my mind just like turns in circles and hits dead ends. But the longer I think about it, the more little cracks I see, the more ways I have to understand it. And in any event, it's always fun to reflect on our favorite things from an episode.
So yeah, let's try and break it down, try and make it a little easier to digest. What was some of the standout moments for you for this episode?
Once again, Aubrey Plaza.
Man, I'm just here to help, okay?
I've mentioned her before. She's always been fantastic, especially in like dance and musical numbers and just letting her evil Lenny out. We saw a very different Lenny today, right from the first shot where we see her. Normally, she's like an animal, you know, she's ready to pounce, or she's in the process of pouncing or toying with her prey. But in that first shot, she's like docile a little bit. There's something sedate, vulnerable, human, and not vulnerable in the caged animal way that we saw her by the pool recently, but in a very human, like little girl kind of way, you know? And it makes sense by the end of the episode. By the end of the episode, we learn that she's not just Lenny, but she's Lenny transmuted into Amy's body. And so I think what Lenny's trying to do, or what Aubrey's trying to do, is indicate that this is a Lenny-Amy hybrid, right? I think that's actually a bit of foreshadowing. We're gonna see that there's more Amy in there than maybe Farouk would like there to be.
That's fair, yeah. There was also a great scene with Lenny and Tonomy where we get to kind of go inside both of their minds, really, and explore some of the, maybe more of what you were saying, like there's other consciousnesses at play here than meets the eye.
That's right, yeah, we get fragments of what seems like a Vermilion memory, right? Like personal access to Admiral Baskethead, Admiral Fukuyama, that is. By the way, the first time we see Fukuyama's face, I don't know about you, but he looks like a grown-up oil chicken or a delusion monster.
Yeah, those oil chickens make another appearance this week. We see, again, it crawl into Tonomy's mind.
Yeah, Tonomy's broken. He's infected with oil chicken.
That's tough. It's tough to get rid of oil chicken.
Yeah,
so
I know,
we'll
you
see.
gotta scrub,
Yeah.
you need some degreasers.
Hopefully he figures that out. We also got a lot of cool stuff between Farouk and Oliver in a very, like, what's the word I'm looking for? They're on like a road trip, I guess you could say, through the desert, looking for Lenny's corpse.
Apparently.
To use that weird DNA swapping gun. That thing was, whoever designed that thing deserves an award, because that thing was really crazy looking and looked dangerous to handle.
It's true, you know, we haven't talked about the design of the gadgets on the show before, but they have such a nice analog texture to them, you know? It feels like something that is made by one person, which probably all of them are. They're probably all made by Carrie, by the male Carrie.
Yeah, and you know, it's really cool to see, he hasn't been in the show for a couple of episodes, but Jermaine Clement as Oliver, kind of, we get to see more of his personality as opposed to just being a body for Farouk to stomp around in. And it's a nice reminder that there are things that he wants. We see him conjure up memories of his ex-wife, of Melanie. And it's just really sad to think about his journey so far. We've only really seen him as this prisoner, whether it be a prisoner of the astral plane in season 1, where he's kind of just stuck out there, or now a prisoner in his own body. So it was
now he's a prisoner of cool.
Yes, he is very
always
dapper.
Has been.
Yeah.
But I think it was not just sad, but powerful, right? We don't just feel sorry for him. He's told Farouk straight up, "I'm going to kill you.
Yeah.
I will kill you." And I think it's pretty clear that like what's tying him back to humanity, to not losing himself in this mind maze that Farouk has created, is Melanie, right? That vague memory. If you remember in the finale of the last season, the last thing he remembered before Farouk infected him was Melanie. Like he had that flash, Melanie's my wife. So I think we will see more from Jermaine Clements Oliver and fighting Farouk.
Yeah, definitely an interesting performance by him. We ultimately culminate, everything comes together in the final scene of the episode where we get to see Amy again, David's sister, who's been absent so far this season. And in like a very dark and like hard to watch scene, Farouk swaps her body using the DNA of Lenny's corpse and turns her into a host body for Lenny, a new host body. And it was a nice touch that the eyes don't change. There's a lot to be said about like, you know, the theories around eyes and how people have called them the windows to the soul and everything like that. I thought that was an interesting touch to keep the eyes the same when these body transformations happen.
Yep, letting us know that Amy's still in there.
Amy is certainly
She's
still
there
in
a little
there.
bit.
And just the look on David's face when he pieces everything together and he sees the memories of him as a child inside of Lenny, it's just, that's a heartbreaking scene. All right, so let's get into some of the things, little details that people may have missed and shine a light on some of those.
Yeah, I want to give an overdue shout out to Jeff Russo, the composer on the series.
Definitely.
He's done such a great job with the music, especially like I feel like the tone in this season has shifted more towards, or more often towards horror, and he's developed like a nice sort of musical vocabulary to express that.
Definitely.
Lots of great song choices from other artists too. In this episode, we heard Velvet Underground, we heard Cat Power, and we heard a Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers cover. Was it Tom Petty or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers? I'm not sure. I should look that up, but I don't know. But anyway, cover performed, I read, by Jeff Russo himself.
Getting involved.
Getting in there, mixing it up with
like
the Tom Petty cover.
Yeah.
So yeah, big shout out to Jeff Russo.
Yeah, the music on this show has always been excellent, so it's nice to see that kind of, you know, work pay off in such a tangible way because the music really stands out. One thing that I noticed, I'm always in here talking about comic book references. I like to point them out. After all, this is, you know, ostensibly an X-Men show.
Yep.
At one point, Farouk and Oliver, during their travels, Farouk mentions the term Homo superior.
Homo superior, sano.
Which is, in the comic books, the term used to describe mutants. Because mutants isn't exactly the most scientific of terms.
No, you need a Latin term.
Yeah, you
for
need
that.
Latin. You need to bring in Latin. So they've been called Homo superior, which plays into, you know, Magneto and his idea of mutants above the regular human population.
How do you think Farouk feels about that idea?
That's
Does
interesting.
he see humanity or like Homo superior as the evolution that will destroy humanity, or is he more like selfish about it? He really just cares about his own power.
I think he's definitely more selfish about it. I think the fact that he doesn't travel with a pack of like-minded mutants is like an indication that he's out for himself.
Yeah.
In the comics, whenever we see characters, namely Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants, whenever we see characters that are about like mutant superiority, there's always like 20 of them, and they're kind of like a terrorist organization.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting point. I never thought of it. But yeah, it seems like Farouk is more out for himself than anything else.
We saw Jon Hamm. Well, we didn't see him. We hear Jon Hamm back in this
Hear him
episode
again.
first.
Yeah.
Apparently on Legion.
Love that.
That
Love
was
that
such a
little
great
detail.
touch.
Because that's how I feel, genuinely. Yeah,
Apparently
supposedly
this happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that gets to like how we talk about the show. So it's very, very self-aware, which gets to my point that when he's talking about pattern recognition, I feel kind of like he's talking about what we're doing right here. Like just a couple weeks ago, I was here talking about, yeah, there's lots of circles and they always represent the Shadow King, and then there's hexagons and that's always Division 3, but then if you look at his sunglasses, it's a rounded hexagon, and so it's like in between the two. So I feel like they're connecting with the fans, which I've heard the president of I think it was the president of FX say that when it comes to deciding what gets canceled and what stays on the network, fans get a vote, critics get a vote, and the network gets a vote, and they need 2 of those to stay on the air. So I think that an FX show, reaching out through the language of its show to the fans is a deft tactic to stay on the air.
For sure. And yeah, it's really interesting to when, those Jon Hamm segments, every week I love to talk about those little vignettes. This week was particularly interesting, I found. Just in not necessarily how relevant it was to the actual episode, but it was like a little mini lecture. It was like, okay, this is really interesting. And that's a cool detail in a show like this where everything is so confusing, to just have hey, here's a theory that we can grab onto pretty solidly. That was cool.
It's true. It kind of helps us stay grounded in you don't know what's going on. The characters don't know what's going on. And then here's just a straightforward lecture. We will lower our voices, make the visuals simpler, white with very simple figures on there, and tell you how it is.
And it helps that Jon Hamm has a beautiful voice to walk us through all of it.
Which is why, when we encounter coincidence, we often see conspiracy.
So let's get into the predictions.
Yep.
See where this show, or try and guess at least,
Yeah,
where
good
this
luck.
show is going.
What do you got?
So this week we got introduced to what I like to call the Chekhov's DNA gun.
Ah, yes.
So, we see this DNA gun for the first time. We're shown very clearly how it works. You take the DNA from one corpse, you use it on another body.
Yeah, clearly.
Voila.
Very clear.
Very clearly. It's very straightforward. I think the reason that was introduced is so that we can see Farouk find his body, use the gun on it to take a DNA sample, ultimately for the goal of transforming David's body into a new body for Farouk, the same way that he transformed Amy's body into a new body for Lenny.
And so you think that he's choosing David's body because if he takes his own DNA and uses David's body as a vessel, he'll get David's powers too?
Absolutely, and we've seen kind of the relationship. Farouk obviously sees value in being inside David. He spent a ton of time in there.
Yep.
So I think that is a logical place to go.
Could happen.
However, this show often says,
knows?
who cares about logic? We're going to do what we want.
I don't think we've been right in any predictions so far.
That's
so.
half the fun of it.
And that's why, you know what, okay, here's my prediction. Maybe it's a prediction, maybe it's a pitch, I don't know. What I loved was the Dead Sea Donuts submarine food truck that Amy's husband drives around in. That seems to be his witness protection cover. Makes total sense that would be Division 3's version of witness protection, right? The real world witness protection for the FBI would have you managing a Cinnabon, right? Here you're driving a donut truck. That's shaped like a submarine. So I want to see a whole series that's just Division 3's witness relocation program. You could have witnesses living in candy-themed tree houses, hiding from that psychic cephalopod, right? That we saw in the season premiere. I think that this is a rich universe that is untapped. FX, hit me up.
I'd love to see that show, personally.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, no, that's great stuff. Hopefully it would be a little easier to follow than Legion. Just a little bit more straightforward. But when you're invoking cephalopods that are psychic, perhaps not.
All bets are off.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us for Watch Club yet again. You can catch us back every Wednesday. We're talking about Legion all season long. And subscribe
for all 11 episodes.
For they just recently announced an extra episode, so we're here for that. And subscribe to MojoTalks. Ring that bell so you know when all the new content is coming down the pipe. And we'll see you next time on Watch Club.
Boom.